Hi there, welcome to our Performance Edge Weekly Wisdom, where spirit drive performance. Coach Soul here. Today we are going to discuss the tough topic of addiction. How to defeat substance addiction. Recently in the news, just about over a week ago, Matthew Perry, a famous American actor, died at 54 years old by apparent drowning in the hot tub of his home in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood in Los Angeles just after 4 p.m. While the causes of his death have to be still confirmed, one thing we knew was due to his addiction struggle. Matthew Perry suffered life-threatening health issue at the age of 49 years old due to opioid overuse. His colons had burst and he was in a coma for 2 weeks. He even said that in one of his book. So unfortunately, as we'll see shortly in this video, along with estimated over 40 million Americans, Matthew Perry is not alone, unfortunately. When it comes to substance use disorder or SUD, but the good news is that everyone can defeat the addiction problem. Yes. And I'm going to share with you today from an applied spirit new lens that was understood from ancient and secular wisdom, which will give you a sustainable solution and formula to resolving your addiction issue if you have one, or if you know anyone that has one. So first, we are going to understand the addiction problems, the science behind it. Second, we'll see this common guideline solution suggested by the expert. And third, I'll show you by developing spiritual intelligence, you can help improve your psychological and emotional well-being, which will significantly help you provide the stability you need. So by the end of this video today, not only will you understand the reason for the addiction drugs in the nation, but also how applied spirit is an untapped approach to helping people improve psychological well-being, and why applied spirit is the best strategy that will help us to resolve the spread of addiction and substance use. You ready? Jump in. So yes, Matthew Perry unfortunate death last week has surfaced the important issue of addiction that our nation is facing. In fact, friends of Perry are launching a foundation in the actor's name titled the Matthew Perry Foundation in a bid to help those suffering from addiction. And so here in this video, I'm going to do my part to help in this effort to help people that have addiction issue. So if you pay attention today in this video can be a life-changing agent if you apply the teachings that can help you change the trajectory of your life if you have any of the substance use disorder. So if you are facing substance use disorder or you know anyone, this video will help you. So in today's volatile and uncertain, complex and ambiguous world, in this VUCA world, the many demands in our lives have highlighted the challenges that are multi-level and more complex. So first, I will share in this video the state of the most common causes of addiction, the science behind it, and second, we'll explore the most effective common guidelines provided by the experts in the field of substance use disorder. And finally, we'll see with applied spirit approach to resolving issues at the root cause of how spiritual intelligence further can help you defeat substance addiction. So if you or someone you know is struggling with substance addiction, especially opioid, I will introduce you to a totally new understanding of how human operates from an applied spirit lens, which will help you transform any mental issue that are coming because of substance use disorder. So when you look at the situation, what is substance use disorder? So substance use disorder is a serious challenge for our nation. And notably, Matthew Perry actually suffered for long from his addiction to drinking and Vicodin. Talking about his dark phase, Matthew Perry revealed that at one stage, he was taking 55 Vicodin a day. 55 Vicodin pill a day, and his weight came down to only 128 pounds. 128 pounds. I didn't know how to stop, he said. If a police came over to my house and said, hey, if you drink tonight, we're going to take you to jail, I will start packing. I couldn't stop because the disease and the addiction is progressive. So it gets worse and worse as you grow older, said Matthew Perry, as quoted by People. And fortunately, Matthew Perry isn't alone. According to a 2020 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, the NSDUH survey 40.3 million Americans aged 12 or older. They had substance use disorder in 2019. And the trend is not getting better nowadays in 2023 as I'm filming this. So millions of Americans have a substance use disorder, SUD, and it remains an important health issue in our country. With effective treatment, recovery is possible for everyone. That's really the good news. So there is strength in getting help. So now let's jump in and really look at everything from the root cause and the basis. So what is a substance use disorder? So as we call it, the SUD, an SUD, or a substance use disorder, is a treatable chronic disease characterized by a problematic pattern of use of a substance leading to noticeable impairment or distress. SUDs can lead to significant problems in all aspects of a person's life. So the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, DSM, in the 5th edition, they describe that a key feature of a substance use disorder, SUD, act as a cluster of cognitive, behavioral, and physiological symptoms indicating that the individual continue using the substance despite significant substance-related problems. So a diagnosis of a SUD can be applied to 9 classes of drugs: alcohol, cannabis, hallucinogens, inhalant, opioids, sedatives, hypnotics, or anxiolytics, stimulants, tobacco, nicotine, and other unknown substances. And in this case, not all substances apply, but to move further the scale of even SUD, that leads us to a physiological hurdle, as noticed by the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. And they mentioned that an important characteristic of substance use disorder is an underlying change in brain circuits that may persist beyond detoxification, particularly in individuals with severe disorder. So the behavioral effect of these brain changes may be exhibited in the repeated relapses and sometimes intense drug craving when the individual are exposed to drug-related stimuli. And this persistent drug effect may benefit from long-term approaches to treatment. So when you look at that, this leads us right into understanding addiction. And according to the DSM-5, the word addiction is omitted from the official definition just because they figure that substance use disorder, SUD, terminology, because of its uncertain definition and potentially negative connotation. So that's why they omitted addiction instead they rather use substance use disorder, because the term addiction is commonly used to describe serious conditions involving compulsive and habitual substance use. So now that leads us into just defining that. What is addiction, right? So the American Society of Addiction Medicine, ASAM, they state that addiction is a treatable, which is a good news. So addiction is a treatable chronic medical disease involving complex interaction among brain circuits, genetics, the environment, and an individual's life experiences. People with addiction use substances or engage in behavior that become compulsive and often continue despite harmful consequences. Prevention effort and treatment approaches for addiction are generally as successful as those for other chronic diseases. So here, it's a clear definition of addiction that we got from American Society of Addiction Medicine. So now with that, it's important to see, okay, how do we handle that? So what do experts suggest? And so currently, if you look at it, let's look at the first part, the current methodology that are being used. So the experts, they suggest that, especially the American Board of Medical Specialties, the ABMS, they recognize that two medical specialties that focus on providing care for patients with substance use disorder. And there are two. The first one is addiction psychiatry and the second one is addiction medicine. And addiction psychiatrists, they aim to address the underlying causes of addiction. And on the other hand, the addiction medicine specialists, they provide evidence-based prevention, evaluation, diagnosis, treatment, and medical management services for patients with unhealthy substance use or substance-related health conditions. So you might be asking, so why should I refer to an addiction medicine specialist? Well, it's for three main reasons. They have expertise, and all of them are credentialed. They have clinical expertise, right, in prevention, in evaluating, in diagnosis and treatment patient with one more substance use, disorder. And the second reason, you want to refer is they have experience, because they know various level of care and treatment options to help people with substance use disorder. And the third one is a network, because addiction medicine specialists, they collaborate with other clinicians. So that's really one of the reasons it's important for us to check one of them. And the truth is, no single approach to treatment of a substance use disorder successfully enables every individual to reach recovery, right? So diagnosing a substance use disorder requires a comprehensive evaluation of patient cognitive, behavior, and physiological symptoms. Sometimes urine drug testing is a common tool used in assessment and treatment monitoring. But one of the keys is that we need to acknowledge that a substance use disorder is a chronic disease, but it is treatable, and like any medical disorder, and it can be the first step to reducing the stigma often associated with substance use disorder. And taking that can facilitate open and honest communication between patient and the clinician. And that's what we have to say. I really want to say that, because the big challenge is stigma. Because the reality is addiction can happen to anyone, and a person with a substance use disorder is unfortunately still regarded by many as having a moral failing or a problem that any strong individual should be able to overcome. Because associated shame felt that patient and family can create a significant barrier to treating, and having access to be effective. So patients may seem sometimes, that acknowledging and receiving treatment for their substance use disorder, is a sign of personal failure or weaknesses. So it is important that we should destigmatize this and really to help people. And that's really some of the work going on. So what are some of the symptoms? It's hard to stop on your own. And so what's important to say is that some common behavior of addiction use disorder include trying to stop or cut down on drug use, but not being able to, right? Or using drugs because of being angry or upset with other people, or sometimes taking one drug to get over the effect of another, or making mistakes of school or on the job because of using drugs. Drug use hurting a relationship with family and friends. The sixth kind of symptom, there's being scared at the thought of running out of drugs. Seventh will be stealing drugs or money to pay for drugs. And the eighth will be being arrested or hospitalized for drug use. And 9, developing a tolerance and needing larger amount of drugs, of alcohol to get high and high. And 10, overdosing on drugs. So when you look at some of the symptoms, addiction is a chronic and treatable disease. I want to repeat that again, and it's hard to stop on your own. So using drugs repeatedly changes the brain, including the part that help exert self-control. So that's why someone may not be able to stop using drugs, even if they know the drug is causing harm or feel ready to stop. Because drug use and other mental illness often they coexist. In some cases, mental disorders such as anxiety, depression, or schizophrenia may come before addiction. In other cases, drug use may trigger or worsen those mental health conditions, particularly in people with specific vulnerabilities. So when you look at that, you might want to ask yourself, and that's really the next question is, okay, let's understand the science of addiction. What is the brain impact? And so to go a little basic here, so network of neurons, right? Our brain is 3 pounds, or roughly is made of network of neurons. And so the way our brain works is network of neurons, they send signal back and forth to each other and among different parts of the brain, the spinal cord and the nerves in the rest of the body, right? So to send a message, a neuron releases a neurotransmitter, and that's key here, a neurotransmitter into the gap, right? And it's called the synapses, right, between the two cells, right? So the neurotransmitter crosses the synapses and attaches to receptors on the receiving neuron like a key lock, like a key into a lock. What that does cause changes in the receiving cell. So that's basically roughly the way the neural network communicate with each other, right? So the neurotransmitter is basically between the neuron and the other receptor. And so the key here, what happens is drugs, they interfere with the way neuron sends, the way the neuron receive, and the way the neuron process signal via neurotransmitters. That's really the key here. So the way drugs work in the brain, basically long-term drugs they impair the brain functioning by basically altering the neurotransmitter. And so by doing different work that way, so they interfere with the way neuron kind of really process the neurotransmitter. So although these drugs mimic the brain's own chemicals, right, they don't activate neurons in the same way as a neural transmitter, and they lead to abnormal messages being sent through a network by affecting the neurotransmitter. So which part of the brain are affected by drug use? And it's important here, and so the principle here that's it's because it's like using a crutch, right? If drugs are overused, you don't develop a muscle anymore, right? So the circuit adapts to the presence of a drug, diminishing the sensitivity and making it hard to feel pleasure from anything besides a drug. So the brain affected by drugs include the three main areas, and we'll talk about what we call the basal ganglia. That basal ganglia, the simple term is basically the reward circuit. It affects motivation, including healthy activities like eating, socializing, sex. So the reward circuit, are part of the brain. And drugs, when you take drugs, they overactivate this circuit, producing the euphoria of a drug high. The second part of the brain that's affected is called the extended amygdala. And amygdala helps regulate stressful feelings like anxiety, irritability, and unease. The third part of the brain is the prefrontal cortex, which powers the ability to think, the ability to plan, to solve problems, to make decisions, and to exert self-control over impulses. And this is also a last part of the brain to grow and to mature. That's why, making teens very vulnerable in this part of the brain. So those are the main three areas that the brain is affected. But some drugs like opioids also disrupt other parts of the brain, such as the brain stem, which controls basic functions critical to life, including like heart rate, breathing, and sleeping. So this interference explains why overdose can cause depressed breathing and death. So basically, when some drugs are taken, they can cause surges of these neurotransmitters. Endorphins, for example, which has body natural opioid, or dopamine, which causes euphoria. So when those drugs are taken, they can cause surges of this neurotransmitter, like much greater than the smaller burst of endorphin or dopamine that's produced naturally in association with healthy reward like eating, hearing, or playing music, or creative pursuit or social interactions. So in a way, the way I like to kind of summarize it is basically the challenge becomes like what you don't use, you lose, right? You've seen it everywhere in nature. So it's the same thing at our brain level, right? If we use drugs instead of letting our natural, neural networks to provide those neurotransmitters, they pretty much don't expand anymore. So our neural network produce fewer neurotransmitters in the reward circuit, or by reducing the number of receptors that can receive signal, hence that create the dependence to drug use. So that's really, as you can see, the challenge there. So now the question we got to ask ourselves is, then if that's the case, so can addiction be treated successfully? And the good news is yes, addiction is treatable disorder. And so now that leads us into this section now, treatment and recovery option for people to kind of really have an idea. And so you will see here, so overcoming a substance use disorder is not as simple, we gotta say, as resisting, right? It's not as simple as resisting the temptation to take drugs. But the good news is that while no single treatment method is right for everyone, recovery is possible and help is available for patients with substance use disorder. And so as you can see here, there are 4 major approaches. We'll talk to that later quickly. But like treatment for other chronic diseases such as heart disease or asthma, addiction treatment is not a cure, but a way of managing the condition. So treatment enables people to counteract addiction disruptive effect on their brain and behavior and regain control of their lives. So as you can see here on this picture, on the left, you see the brain of a healthy person. And please look at the red dot, right? And then if you look at the second picture, for not using drug, 1 month abstinence, someone there, right? How that part kind of there. And then after 14 months abstinence, the brain of a person is coming back to normal, right? So that's really, as you can see that's treatment is possible. So what does treatment look like? Usually it's a matter like 4 roughly combination. Initial one is medication and services for opioid use disorder, right? And so different type of medication may be useful at different stage of treatment to help a patient stop abusing drugs so that they can stay in treatment and avoid relapses. Yes, this is extreme cases where they start. And the second option that they use is basically behavioral treatment for drug addictions. And in those behavioral health care, behavioral therapies help people in drug addiction. Treatment modify the attitude and behavior related to drugs. And high level, there is cognitive behavioral therapy, there is contingency management, there is motivational enhancement therapy, there is family therapy that's being used in those cases. And also there are 12-step facilitation, TSF, where an individual therapy, is delivered in 12 weeks weekly session to prepare people to become engaged in 12-step mutual support, like, Alcoholics Anonymous, you probably heard about. And for more details, you can look at the link. I have an end of video detailed snapshot there, but you can look at that. And for help, you can find the number there, treatment, and you can look at it. But the key here in treatment is that treatment must address a whole person, right? And that's really what we need to look at is current results. So, and unfortunately, despite all the effort, drug overdose deaths have been rising over the past 2 decades in the United States. The use and misuse of alcohol, nicotine, and illicit drugs, and misuse of prescription drugs cost America more than $700 billion a year in increased health cost, crime, and lost productivity. And what we have seen is that the age-adjusted rate of drug overdose death rose more than 14% from 2020 through 2021 in the United States. And fortunately, in 2021, 106,699 drug overdose deaths occur, resulting in an age-adjusted rate of 32.4 per 100,000 standard population, as you can see on the figure. So among the total population from 2022 through 2021, the rate increased 14% from 28.3% to 32%. So it's really sad to say that drug overdose death rates were higher in 2021 than in 2022 for all ages group over 25 and older. So the results are not encouraging. So this is why we need to really ask ourselves why it's not working. What are the limitations with current methodology? And so before we dive into it, what I want to reinforce is that the understanding of reducing stigma is important, because addiction can happen to anyone, and the substance use disorder is treatable chronic disease that can affect people of any race, gender, income level, or social class. And some people may use drugs to help cope with stress and trauma, or to help with mental health issues. Some may develop a SUD after misusing opioids that are prescribed to them by doctors. So in any case, using drugs over time may cause changes in the person's brain, leading to intense craving and continuous use. And so as we're kind of looking at what's not working, and I want to just add a disclaimer here that the solution I'm going to recommend, and I'm recommending that really works, it's about people with it's not about people with genetic disorder or people that are medicated prone to addiction. For those people, please refer to your physician, but what I'm addressing is a fact that the trend is moving into a wrong direction, which means it has something to do with us and the way our world is going. So with that in mind, what is undeniable is that first part. The reason it's not working is because current solutions are treating symptoms. Yes, current solutions are treating symptoms. And so let us just look at it. Why do I say that? So let's ask ourselves questions. So why do people take drugs? The CDC itself recognized for a few reasons. One, to feel good. Why? Because drugs can produce intense feeling of pleasure. Two, to feel better. Some people who suffer from social anxiety, stress, and depression, they start using drugs to try to feel less anxious. Three, to do better. Some people feel pressure to improve their focus in school or at work, or their ability in sport. Four, curiosity and social pressure, right? Especially in that case, teens are particularly at risk because peer pressure can be very strong, right? So those are the main reason why people take drugs. So when you look at those reasons, it's really clear that that's where current practices are really trying to resolve the issue. And that's what I mean really, and that's kind of hard because there is a limited understanding of how human operates. That's really where you look at the root cause, it's ambiguous. And this is what I say, apply spirit, help treating these problems at the root cause, which will make it sustainable, and that answer is found at the root cause. So that leads us into straight apply spirit. It's about understanding what are the factor and driver of your life, right? And so when you look at that, the second major thing that we're going to develop and people need to understand, the reason it's not working is the failure to recognize it's a new world. We have entered a new era. It really is. What has changed? We are living in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, the VUCA world. So the many demands in our lives have highlighted the challenges that are multi-level and more complex. So we need a new paradigm. We have entered a new era, and I call it the whole era of a Homo sapiens sapiens sapiens, or Homo triple sapiens. Basically, the old model of a Homo sapiens sapiens or Homo double sapiens was based on a binary model, the Cartesian paradigm, which says I think, so I am. And the Homo double sapiens really motto is I know that I know. In a way, I can think of what I was thinking about. But now that has reached its limits with the way we are going. So the Homo triple sapiens now is the one emerging. The Homo triple sapiens is the one emerging. And the Homo triple sapiens has a third knowing. And he says, I know more than I know that I know. So that third knowing that our human species need to tap into, that the ancient tradition, since ancient Egypt, have ever used. And to give you an idea, so you have heard about cognitive intelligence, IQ. You have heard about emotional intelligence, EQ. But what has been demonstrated yet is spiritual intelligence. And the time has come to immerse ourselves into applied spirit and teach everyone the need to be equipped. And that's the basis of the quantum door I teach people on, right? So I don't have a whole time to explain about the quantum door, but you can find out more about by watching my video about the quantum door on my website. But the quantum door is a spirit elevation platform system that equips people to move them from being rigid, from being stuck, from being self-absorbed, from being doubtful, from being frustrated or overwhelmed, to being effectively in the flow and a confident, easy state of optimal performance. So with that leads us into that new paradigm, right? Human experiences themselves in 5 dimensions through 3 drivers. So the solution lies in understanding that new paradigm that was understood since ancient Egypt. But before we dive into this, why is understanding important? Simply because of this now, right? Because of excessive volume of data we need to process every day. Our brain does 3 things: it deletes, it distorts, and generalize. So in a way, it creates a filter which makes us prone to illusions, whether they're a good one or bad one. Regardless, that is the basis of people being in denial or avoiding or escaping or trying to bury your true emotions. And don't have time to go over here, but the fundamental is to understand that your daily experience is driven by 3 main drivers. The first one is social conformity, second is self-projection, and resources. So social conformity is to think of it as a pressure, an unseen or unspoken rules that are imposed on people by accepted society norm. And as you can imagine, in social media and the 24 hours news cycle nowadays, that conforming is elevated to critical levels. And of course, for self-projection, it's reflecting the doubts, the insecurities, and the fear that are inherited through our personalities and our weaknesses. And finally, resources are important, especially if there is a perception of scarcity. Will I have enough money, time? Will I have enough energy to survive or to satisfy my needs and want? So these 3 drivers are the basis of the formation of your illusions and filter, particularly when the brain delete, distort, or generalize, right? So with that new understanding, that leads us into the most fundamental that the quantum door teaches. That was the foundation of ancient Egypt. It is 3rd paradigm. Humans experience themselves in 5 dimensions. You have the depth dimension, the spirit or the principle dimension, the emotional dimension, the mental dimension, and the physical dimension. Those 5 dimensions. And we are going in and out of this dimension at all time. So what differs is our attention, which is a common denominator now, right? That's really what allows us to move those dimensions. So with those understanding, now you can see that there is a new way you can look at these factors. So now you are equipped with that knowledge. So what to do instead? 3rd paradigm. Your reality is spirit into form. So when you look at the quantum field, it's an energetic field where everything is energy. So you can clearly see that it's a matter of degrees, meaning all forms of everything that exists are then just a different manifestation of energy, or you could say they are different forms of energy. And we know that the animating energies that carry the breath, that carry life's power, is one and only one thing: your spirit. So meaning your experience is a result and the form of your desires. So the visible is a form of invisible, meaning specifically why that matters to you here. Because what appears to you as an urge to take drugs is a result of an unbalanced, reflecting a misalignment from your authentic spirit desires versus the reality you are experiencing. So the urge you experience is a reflection from a tension of a gap between your authentic desires versus the reality you are experiencing. So the good news is that it's a wake-up call you need to handle now, or the bad news is if you don't, it will keep elevating and turn into a louder crisis. So that's where you really can see. So if your spirit is reality into form, the urge to take drug in the physical dimension is due to what? The chemical imbalance in the brain in the physical dimension, which is a result of an emotional imbalance in the emotional dimension, which is also an imbalance in the mental dimension due to the illusions that are contrasting to your reality. And those illusions are in turn a further result of misalignment of your authentic desires in the spirit dimension versus your reality. Can you see that? So how is it so? Because the bigger of a misalignment and the wider of a gap between your authentic desire against your reality, the more you experience emotional pain. And that pain can take many forms. That's when addictions comes in. Because obviously the addiction to quick pills is the first one. But it can be addiction to other substances. And that emotional pain will keep increasing if not handled with awareness, because pain is reflecting a deep fear that needs to be resolved. And that's a spiritual work where we need to grow and evolve, because fear is protecting that all consciousness level and the all you that is outdated and need to be grown, and need to be outgrown, that's been asking to be outgrown, right? And we all heard the term growing pain in all culture, because growth and rebirth is cyclical, dialectic, where two entities are apparently opposed, they fuse into a new conception. So to sum it up, if you find yourself with an urge to take a pill or always looking for substance use disorder, stop for a minute and ask yourself, where does your tension come from? And if you don't know about tension, it's basically a basic spirit indicator, and I'm going to explain right now. And tension are always, most of the time, the root cause of stress. And this is where applied spirit is at work. So why tension occurs? Tension is a basic spirit indicator, and that's basically reflecting the tension between the illusion from the drivers versus the authentic desire. So you are not able to see your true reflection because of illusions that are on your way. Like a dusty mirror, illusions will interfere for you to see your true reflection, and that causes misalignment and pain as a result. So spirit reflection are designed to identify the element driver trait which was seeking expression. In nature and in the cosmic order, feminine energy and polarity is what start and ignite motion in this plane. So just look at the electron, for example, right? Meaning an elemental trait seeking expression is always manifested via its absence, or a negative trait in this case. So as an example, in order to experience courage, you will need to face your fears, right? So the goal of a reflection is to discern which negative trait was at play and what it was seeking to experience, what was the initial desire. So to find it out, you must go through identifying the pain, then discerning your fear, which will lead you to identify the illusion why you did what you did by looking at the data. So as you see the illusion at work, you are able to reconstruct using your attention and see what was your desire. That's a process of evolution, right? And don't have time to go over here, but that's how you are a co-creator. So you ask yourself, so why do I have attention? Now, it's because, very simple, because there's an expectation of what you want. There's expectation, there is a value, there's an image of what you are supposed to have. But the key secret here is to realize that the expectation is corresponding to an identity and to an image. And the spirit work is for you to see whether or not that image, that identity, that value need to be outgrown, or if you need to change the magnitude of your action, right, of your procedure or your approach. So then that's where the spirit work is threefold. What that conscious level is that you need to let go, and should we evolve from that? And you do that work by reviewing the expectation, right, through the three drivers we talked about. And the second way is to look at, okay, so if a desire, the expectation is authentic, it means you need to change your approach. But that will still mean you need to come from an evolved new consciousness level, right? And that leads us to that third part of the work. Because as you can see here, when you are able to unfold the conscious level, that is at the cause of tension, you are able to release the tension, which was at the cause of your stress, because which led you to basically, taking drugs, or not, wanting to exercise, or do whatever you need to do that create attention. That got you into the emotional dilemma, right? Everything that becomes a symptom that your physician want to treat it through medication. So if you can handle that at the root cause, you will not need to handle that symptoms level, right? And yes, I agree, it will take some training in the awareness, but the video is here for that, right? Then you will be positioned for a lifelong methodology, and I'm going to explain to you at the end how you can develop that skill, and I'll provide to you the way you can develop it for free, right, at the end. So now, since you really stuck around, I want to give you a bonus tip. And here is a bonus tip. The first step is track yourself. Whenever you feel an urge to take a drugs, which category does it fall into among the four? Is your urge to feel good? Basically, here, think about drug can produce intense feeling of pleasure, right? It's basically that initial euphoria. Or is it the second one, to feel better, right? Because people suffering from social anxiety, stress, and depression, they start using drugs to try to feel less anxious. Because stress can play a major role in starting and continuing drug use as well as relapses, right? Or the third can be, do you have an urge because you want to do better? Some people feel pressure to improve their focus at work, right? Or fourth, is it you feel the urge to take drugs because curiosity and social pressure? So track yourself whenever you feel that urge, which category are you into, right? And then so document the pattern for 2-3 weeks. And when you see that, do you see a pattern? Does it fall in one or two of the categories? And if it falls, you can really see it now and then really identify the substance use, we can see the root cause. And if it doesn't, just repeat it. You will be able to see a pattern, because if it's addiction, that means there's a pattern for you to see. And as you can see, I know I really went over than I was hoping, but I really want to, if you want to know more, I want to talk about this a lot, but if you want to know more and continue this conversation with me, this is what I want to share with you. Please sign up to our brand new community, Free Souls, and you'll get access to more tips and relevant answers to your real problems. It's a community of people that have been in a journey of excellence. And the link is in my comment below. And also, if you have an issue you want to talk about, specifically just yours, you can submit those in the comment below, or you can request a specific video topic by logging onto www.thequantumdose.com/video. Right? And before I leave you today, it's important we talk about the negative trend of substance use disorder is alarming for the nation. Yes. So this is a tough topic we just discussed, and the negative trend of substance use disorder is alarming for the nation. Drug overdose death rates were higher in 2021 than in 2020, like for all age group 25 and over. And nowadays in 2023, as I'm recording this, the trend is not getting better. In general, substance use disorder can lead to significant problems in all aspects of a person's lives. Despite all the effort from the government and despite these advances that they're doing, current experts still acknowledge they do not fully understand why some people develop an addiction to drugs, or how drugs can change your brain to foster compulsive drug use. So here is what they are missing. As I shared in the video, the current approach and solution are missing out on the biggest opportunity to substance use disorder programs. It's a development and its adherence to applied spirit. So when we are faced with urges to take drugs, it is a reflection of chemical imbalances that has its roots from mental constraint for the most part, which is coming from emotional imbalance. So it is all about understanding that there is a misalignment between your authentic spirit desires and your reality that you are experiencing. So people need to understand that your reality is spirit actualized into form. Yes, your reality is spirit actualized into form, which means we need to explore our spiritual growth opportunity. That's why I'm here as an applied spirit and performance coach, to provide you with this different angle that have been known for ancient wisdom practices, so that you can leverage your spirit to optimize your performance. So the secret is to understand the root cause of tension and the urge to get drugs is rooted into that alignment, misalignment that need to happen. So when you adhere to that, you understand that, and start practicing, you adhere to my favorite quote as always: failure is a necessary prerequisite for human excellence. Till next time, Crucial out.